I loved the different approaches. I thought there were many varied approaches, and they play with your mind a bit in very different ways.
So I was very struck by the Helicopters and Farmers exhibition, which very purposefully interplays some film imagery plus some documentary imagery plus real life footage of people who were affected by the war in Vietnam, talking about the role of helicopters, and it's just such an iconic image in so many people's heads.
It feels like a deconstructed documentary. Instead of having one screen, you have three screens because of the interview, and then you have like almost like the cutaways, like what you would cut away to in an edit. If it was just a one screen installation, you have them playing on separate screens, but you're still selecting what to watch.
The helicopters were just this thing that represented both a potential for good and evil. But despite all of that destruction he would have seen, he would have, just kind of saw this beauty in this, in this machine, despite what it brought. I just thought it was interesting.
And then the opinion of the elderly women who just didn't accept what a helicopter could mean because it symbolised something much more deep and hurtful.
The thing that stuck with me was the guy who said he was running away from the helicopter and he was just waiting to hear the sounds of the bullets hitting his body.
And being dead.
Yeah. But waiting for the sounds, it was such a precise kind of sensation. He'd obviously heard that many times.
Just a very real and honest engagement with how people would have experienced the time of conflict. The piece with the advertising company trying to come up with an advert for communism in a contemporary context.
I thought that was fascinating. The juxtaposition there of an advertising company, which is like, the forefront of capitalism, trying to sell communism.
Brainstorming session that was filmed from different perspectives. I thought that was really interesting. I didn't and haven't seen this approach before, yet I felt I was part of that brainstorming session.
The way it really mixes up this idea of what modern advertising agencies do with, I suppose, what increasingly people feel is an old idea like communism.
The guy was reading out what communism was. It's like a classless society where everybody's equal. And he turns to the rest of them and goes, "That's really sweet."
and in the background there's a sign. In the background there's a company slogan saying something like, "We want to be one of the 10 best companies in the world."
Visually, I think it's the most striking piece in the exhibition. Detaches the mushroom clouds from their actual context, so that you're seeing them as an experience.
How the scale changes when you go close enough to see the electricity lines and the birds and the little bits of trees.
Makes them look quite beautiful, aesthetically pleasing as well.
There's a simplicity to it that's very attractive. And then it made me think about the difference between making a choice to have that life and having no option but have that life.
Because they were about framing, weren't they? That you crop the frame slightly and they're part of that world. They're part of that aspirational world, but you zoom out ever so slightly and actually they're not part of that world at all. It's just something that they aspire to, but it's not. They're not going to get.
It's probably just the presentation of this that kind of first struck me. It kind of draws you in because of the scale and the size, and there's a certain intimacy to it. It seems to have that dialogue with late 60s American conceptual art. You don't really know what people are pointing at exactly, but it's sort of, there's stories behind it, and then you sort of want to find out more and what's going on, and then the postcards give you clues to what might be behind.
Conjures up these images of nostalgia about the past, and they're mixed in with the conflict of the past.
Look at it at the start, it's like a perfect scenario. I'm on holiday here, it's beautiful. And then when the letters appear at the end, it takes on, it just changes the whole dynamic straight away.
Just waiting. You're waiting for the next slide. You're waiting for the next time you see Dear Sister on the top of the screen. But there's a sense of the pace of life, what it must have been like to be on a very isolated 1 square kilometre island waiting for what's next, the process of being signed in, you know, moved from one refugee camp to another.
And then you're just left with that image, aren't you, of the waves kind of rolling onto the shore. You've just got a sense of time passing. Just watching the shore.
In your mind, you're thinking about what it might have been like during the American War, Vietnam War. But then you've got the tourism of today. You've got a speedboat that's coming through the frame, and it brings you up to tourism in today's world, in how tourism is plonked on top of a legacy of hurt and hatred and destruction and pain and suffering.
Probably my first thought was how much, in terms of Vietnam, for those of us who don't live there, our views of it are really shaped by television, by movies, by popular media. And so it was really interesting to see an exhibition that sort of challenges some of those perceptions.